Welcome to Senior Break. Today I have two special guests with me today. Terry, who is, we know Terry from many times being on.
Many programs.
Our other special guest is Jerry, and it's Sowick.
That's cool.
And Jerry is from Synergy Home Care of Rochester. So welcome, Jerry.
Thank you.
We have questions for you. We're so interested. So many seniors ask so many questions, and so maybe today you'll be able to help us out with some of them. So my first question would be, what is your company, and how did you get involved in it?
Okay. My company is Synergy Home Care of Rochester. We're located in downtown Rochester. How I got started, prior to this, I was an automotive engineer for 33 years. In 2009, the world changed, so I had to do something different. I had experience, my mother had a stroke decades ago, and all the children were working, and we'll go, okay, she gets discharged from the rehab center, what do we do now?
Right.
We were very fortunate that she had a twin sister that said, oh, just bring her over my house
Oh, gosh.
during the working hours and we'll
That's
enjoy
very
our time.
lucky,
Oh,
very
unbelievably
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah, right.
And so they enjoyed their time together for several months until she could recuperate enough that she could spend time by herself. So it all worked out perfectly. But as I mentioned, 2009, the world changed. The company that I worked for, they offered me all kinds of options of exposing me to different business opportunities, and I bought a Synergy franchise in Rochester.
That's quite a departure from
Oh, it's
automotive.
huge. But on the same token, I was in the Army Reserves. I was a medic, so I
Oh,
understood what was
And you
what.
saw the need for it.
Oh,
And that, yeah,
goodness.
my
Yeah.
mother's situation
Yeah,
certainly
sure.
saw the need.
Yep.
So this made sense to me to go in this direction. So this is our 15th year in business.
Wow. Congratulations.
We've cared for just over 900 clients in that 15 years. And it could be anywhere from a few hours per week all the way to 24/7, depending on what the needs are.
Okay.
So basically, the way it operates is it's mostly the children of our clients call us. They could be calling out of state or even out of country saying, here's my situation. You know, my mother fell down, she broke her arm, she's currently in the hospital, and we're expecting her to be discharged in a couple days. And we know because of her injury, she will not be able to dress herself or do things for herself that she was doing prior to this injury. So we develop a care plan, talking with the daughter, and they basically, whoever calls us, and we develop a care plan. We ask a series of questions about the client prior to starting service. So from that point, what I do is we email that care plan to our employees to see who's available. Because a caregiver, or my employees, maybe some of them only want to work in the morning because they're taking their
Sure.
children to school.
Sure.
And maybe some of the other caregivers only want to work overnight cases. So we send the care plans to the appropriate caregivers.
That's nice that you do that,
Right.
too.
And it's
Right.
not uncommon that we staff the case the same day. It's very common. But granted, if it's like a 24/7 case, that takes a lot of employees.
Right.
So it may take us, 48 hours or so to get it entirely staffed.
So you might have a couple different employees for one person.
Especially if it's a number of hours, yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's, if it's 7 days a week, we
Yes.
certainly aren't going to have,
Okay.
somebody working 7 days a week.
Do you also have caregivers for hospice care?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, the one thing I want our viewers to understand, there's 168 hours in a week, okay?
Oh,
If you're on hospice, potentially you'll have a nurse come once or twice a week.
Yes.
And that's a 1 hour, could be longer.
Yeah.
But their whole purpose is to control the pain. That's it.
Right.
Okay? Potentially, that hospice company could send an aide to do some bathing, but even
Yes,
then,
right.
it's 45 minutes once or maybe twice a
Right.
week. What about the other 164?
Right. The family then becomes caregiver.
You're
Yeah.
correct. The
If you're
family
lucky
becomes the
enough.
care, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And our issue, what we see routinely when we get phone calls, and whether it's from the spouse or whether or the children,
Daughter,
is
yeah.
that the spouse is so infirm that they can't help.
Right, sure.
And especially if the hospice client is quite heavy, the spouse can't reposition them. They don't have the strength,
Yes,
let alone potentially hurting themselves.
There's a lot to think about when it goes to care
Sure,
for
absolutely.
your parents.
Yeah,
You think
yeah.
it's easy but once you start doing it,
Yes,
it's
right.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
And with hospice, when we're providing hospice care, it's basically the way I view it. It's to make sure that the client is always clean and dry and always
Fed.
in comfort, that they're comfortable. If certainly we can feed them or if that's what required, but also making sure that medications are given at the appropriate time frame. So what we typically have is a logbook, and we record the medications that they're given at whatever specific time. And the caregiver will sign off that they made sure. So when the next caregiver or anybody else wants to look at that logbook, they said, yes, the medications
know
were given
it's
at 1
when,
p.m. or
right.
whenever they were.
So the qualifications for your staffing,
Okay.
what is their
Well, the
qualification?
primary is that they're all CPR and first aid certified.
Beautiful.
Now, that's not really relevant to hospice, but that's
No,
our
of
qualifications.
course, right.
All of our employees are background checked. We do a national background
Mm-hmm.
check prior to employment, and we check references that they
Mm-hmm.
provide to us. The overwhelming majority of our employees come from working in senior communities or rehab
Mm-hmm.
facilities, and they don't like, the reason they come to us is because they don't want to work with 8 clients per day, where it's, every
Right.
client gets 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So they
want
have to
better
do whatever they have to do, and they
quality.
go to the next
Yeah.
one, and the next one, and the next one. And then when that's all done, they start all over for
Yeah,
lunchtime,
right.
or they
Yeah.
start all over for evening. And it's just overwhelming. That's not to say that there aren't caregivers in those communities that love doing that,
Oh, yeah.
But the ones that come to us, they want that one-on-one situation.
Yeah.
So how many hours, is there a certain amount of hours that they would know?
We try to operate with a 4-hour minimum, but we are willing to work with people. I don't want, if we can get everything done in 2 hours, I don't want my caregiver just to be looking at the other client for 2 hours. That's
Sure.
just a wasted effort.
Yes.
The only issue when it starts to get shorter than 4 hours, it becomes harder to staff because the employee, is it worth their effort to
Right.
drive?
The drive and the time.
Yeah, especially as the winter's coming upon, driving in snow and all that.
Sure.
So
That
when
brings me to,
when you say care, could that be washing their clothes?
Absolutely.
Or
Laundry?
it's not just in contact with the client, the person?
No, it's
It can be cleaning their house
absolutely,
or making food,
absolutely,
phone calls?
sure. Well, like I
that's good to
said, and people call us and they said, what can you do? And my answer is always the same.
What do you
Whatever the
need?
client cannot do for themselves, whether it's personally or around the house, or transportation, or the family can't do for that, that's where we come in. So whether it's personal care, bathing, dressing, toileting, changing a diaper, whether it's housekeeping, when I say housekeeping, it's light housekeeping, vacuuming, dusting, whether it's meal preparation, laundry, or companionship. Many people are just,
overnight.
yeah,
We need to wrap this
Okay,
up,
well, we want to
but
hear a lot
there's
more.
a
We've
lot
got
more,
lot more
yeah.
questions, and we're going to
Yeah.
go for a short break, and we'll
Yeah.
be right back.
Yeah.
Hey, this is former Detroit Lion Rob Rubik and former Lapeer, Michigan school teacher. You're currently watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television. Enjoy it.
Abigail Adams here, just checking up on our springtime goat work on the Polly Ann Trail. What's that? Trash on our beautiful trail? Oh, that makes me so happy. We've got so many trash cans all over the trail. It's a beautiful day on the trail, but oh no, this could end badly. Wow, that sure was nice. Folks know not to hog the road. Even goats share. Hey, that gets my goat. Where are you going? Even I have to be out here on a leash. You sure are a nice dog, but stay away from those weeds. I'm gonna eat them later. What a beautiful gift, our Polly Ann Trail. I've got to hit the trail. I hope you will too.
Welcome back to Senior Break. We have many, many more questions for Jerry. Jerry is from, I want to say it right, Synergy Home Care of Rochester.
That's correct.
And he's answered so many questions, and we have a lot more questions for you today. So we'll start with, if we just need somebody for a little bit of time, is that available? And
Sure.
How do we do this? Do we just call you?
We call.
And then you start the ball rolling for us and tell us what we need?
Correct.
Okay.
So Marie, the way it works, we get a phone call, and I ask a series of questions so I can generate a care plan.
Okay.
Many of the questions are quite simple, like what's the address, what's the client's name, what's the relationship of the caller to the client.
Okay.
The other questions would be, what's the current situation? Why are you actually calling us? You know, and then I ask questions about the client's mobility, meaning, do they walk unassisted? Do they use a walker? Do they use a wheelchair? Or are they bedbound? Or, the other question would be, what is the alertness status, meaning how mentally alert is this client?
Okay.
Are they alert and orientated? Is there a certain amount of dementia? And if so, what phase? And then what are the underlying medical conditions? So I'd ask that. What is the current living situation? Do they live alone? Do they live with a spouse? Do they live with the children?
So the person that contacts you needs to really be.
Well, if they don't have
No.
that information, you know, many of, because most of the calls are either from the spouse or the children, and the children know
Yeah, they
this,
know.
okay? And if they don't know, you know, we'll wait till they get that information.
And your company's in Rochester. How far away can they call you from, or how far do you go to take care of a?
We try to operate in a 10-mile radius of Rochester, so certainly Lake Orion and Oxford would fall within that area.
Okay.
And we're willing to work with our clients. If we have a client that is outside of our territory, we would certainly refer them to another home care company.
Okay. Well, this is really good. When something happens, this is my experience, when something happens to a family member and you don't know who to turn to and you don't know who to ask, this is really good to know that you're available for them to call,
Absolutely.
because even if they just need a little bit of help,
Right.
you can get it, or if they need a lot of help,
Correct.
you can get it too. So tell me a little bit more about the company.
Well, this is our 15th year in business.
Okay.
Basically, all of our caregivers are CPR and first aid certified, so that's the prerequisite. We certainly do a background check prior to employment, and we check references. And most of our employees get their experience working in senior communities or rehab facilities, and they come to us because they don't want to work in that environment. It's too stressful, and they want one-on-one attention to a client of theirs.
Will they take the client somewhere?
Absolutely, sure. You know, it all depends, because most of our clients It depends on that caregiver's vehicle and things like that. We certainly can use the client's vehicle. If we use the caregiver's vehicle, there is a mileage reimbursement that's small. If we use the caregiver or the client's vehicle, there's no mileage. You know, we're just transporting them.
Okay.
But transportation is pretty common, whether it's going to a grocery store. I know we have clients that they have weekly hairdressing appointments, and we take them to that, or going to a dental or doctor appointment.
So if they want to go to OPC in Rochester,
Sure.
because you're Rochester, could they call Rochester and have somebody go with them? Could they call you for
Absolutely,
somebody
yeah.
to go with them and then call Rochester to pick them up and go?
Sure. We're always willing to hear what the client, don't think that we can't perform the task. First,
Okay.
give us the information and let me see if I can meet your expectations as far as the service.
Because I'm thinking some seniors, they love going to the senior centers. I know that because my senior center.
Sure.
And they become friends. But sometimes they need somebody just to help them get there.
Okay.
Let them go play cards for a couple hours and then without having that person, right there. So they
Well,
could be a companion, I guess
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
they would have to stay with them because they couldn't go
Yeah.
back and forth. They wouldn't be.
No,
yeah,
to
yeah.
stay
Sure,
there.
Sure,
That would
of
be
course,
okay to
yeah,
stay there.
Sure.
Oh, this is really, really good. Okay, so you started this a long time ago because of your
50,
interest
yeah.
in taking care of.
Yeah, well, my experience, as I mentioned, my mother had a stroke, so I understood the dilemma that people are in.
Okay.
As I believe you're aware that there's more people over the age of 65 in Michigan
Yes.
that are under the age of 18.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
the population, the silver tsunami is happening right now.
Yeah,
There are so many of us, and so many people live alone, and as their health deteriorates, or they have a situation where they are hospitalized, and they come back and they don't have the same strength or capability than they did prior to going to the hospital. So that's when they call us to look for that service.
And these people will cook for them, you said?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it depends on what you mean cook. We will prepare a meal.
Okay.
You know, we're not going to
Okay.
prepare Thanksgiving dinner,
Okay.
but I mean the regular, lunch and
Yes.
dinner type of meals we would perform.
And help them write letters.
Absolutely, sure.
Help them,
Sure.
just whatever they may need.
Sure.
I know that when my mother was sick, there were people that were going to come in, and I couldn't be there all the time. So it would have been nice if I could have had somebody there for her that she knew of, because when you have people coming in, I'm talking about medical,
No, yeah,
you don't know, and
Right.
plus they have to open the door.
right.
Because if it's a long way to get to the door, at least there would be somebody there to be with them, just as a companion, just to
Sure,
help them
sure.
out. This, I think, is a great service, and so many people need it now.
Right.
You
And
know,
it's
that's
just
what
going to
you're saying,
continue to
so
grow,
many.
Marie, because
Well-
we're aging.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk a little bit about hospice again, too.
Sure, sure.
Because hospice is important, because we can do that after the break, but say someone goes in the hospital, okay, and they're going to need some help, they're going to call you, and then they don't do as well as they thought, or when they do need hospice, that's what we'd like to talk about.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we're going to go on a short break, and we will be right back with Jerry talking about hospice. Be right back.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website dogsaver.org and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Welcome back to Senior Break. Jerry has been explaining different positions, really, that his employees take to help people. But now we're on a very serious topic, hospice. I know that we don't usually know or talk about this until it hits us,
Correct.
till our family, and then we don't know what to do. We don't know who to turn to. So Jerry's going to tell us some differences about hospice, and that we can call him for questions and things. So Jerry, tell us about hospice, please.
Sure. Well, hospice started decades ago. It's funded by Medicare, so there is no out-of-pocket expense for the client or the patient. It's a very restrictive in that for whatever disease the patient has, there's a very strict guidelines that a medical professional, whether a nurse or RN, is going to evaluate and say, yes, that this patient exhibits these characteristics, and if they meet enough of them, they would qualify for hospice.
Okay.
So you may not qualify because you're not ill enough to qualify.
Okay.
Now, typically, and I know this is kind of a hard to accept statement, but typically, if you exhibit these characteristics, it's basically saying that you have 6 months of life or less.
Yes.
Okay? But here's an interesting fact. A number of clients do get, or patients do get enrolled in hospice and get kicked off because their health improves.
I've heard that before.
Okay? And there are a number of people, as a matter of fact, President Carter exceeded 6 months. So just because that judgment, initial judgment says, yes, they qualify, that doesn't mean that that specific patient has 6 months of life or less.
Because hospice's job is to make the patient comfortable. Is that right?
Well, several things. Number one, making sure they're comfortable. But the number one responsibility is to control pain.
Okay.
And pain can come from different directions. If you have cancer, as it's spreading, it's causing pain. But if you have dementia or Alzheimer's, there may not be any pain, but you may have trouble swallowing or breathing. So they're going to have medications to reduce that anxiety.
Okay. Yes, I could see anxiety.
Right. If you have a hard time swallowing, your natural reaction is you're going to be aggressive.
Scared.
You're scared, so you're going to
scared.
take it out on your spouse or whoever's around there. So it's to control pain. Now, the one thing you have to understand with hospice and the overwhelming people that apply for it, their family don't understand that. It basically means that a nurse is going to come on a set schedule, not every day, maybe once a week, just to make sure that the medications are appropriate and that the issue is under control, meaning the pain or whatever response that patient has is under control. Okay. Now, that's not to say you can't call them and say, hey, my husband is doing this. The nurse will come, and to control things.
Okay.
Potentially, they could send a aide for 45 minutes once or twice a week for bathing. But the overwhelming majority of our clients that are in hospice, the reason the family calls us, that's only a couple hours per week that you're getting some attention. What about all the other ones?
So when hospice comes in and they give the patient something, does that medication last until the next time they get there? Or do they leave pills there for you to give them?
Absolutely. They'll leave the medication.
They leave the medication.
And they will say, there will be a defined script saying, every 12 hours or whatever the frequency is, give this dosage.
Okay, so interesting. And you were going to tell us the difference?
Well,
about
yes.
a couple things too?
So, if you get prescriptions can be written from a physician, whether it's at a hospital or your primary care physician, for what's called home health care. Okay. Home health care is covered by your insurance, your either Medicare and or your health insurance, and that is for physical therapy in the house or a nurse or whatever medical conditions that need to be performed. Now, typically, that's for a set period of time, like 30 days or 45 days. The next level, if you cannot leave your house, but you're ill, you have wounds, you have other, congestive heart failure, you can move to a different level, what's called palliative care. So that's in between home health care and hospice. You don't qualify for hospice, but your 30 days or 45 days of care from home health care is expired, but you still need care at home. With palliative care, and many hospice companies have palliative care units.
Okay.
So they will send a nurse practitioner on some frequency to make sure whatever the issue is under control.
Okay.
And they have the authority to write medications or prescriptions for medication if that's what the issue is. So it's not well publicized, I don't know why, but people should take advantage of it. Now granted, there may be an additional out-of-pocket expense in palliative care, but you will not have to go and see the doctor at his office or his or her office. You can have that done in your own home.
Oh, that's good. One good thing about having you here and that we are taping this, I know that when something happens and I go to the doctor, I don't hear everything. Well, I hear it, but it doesn't sink in.
Right.
At least if you watch the show, we can put you on rerun and we can put the tape back and go over it again because when things happen, you just don't comprehend everything the doctor's saying because you're thinking of the person that's sick and what am I going to do and how am I going to help them. So it's really good that you have a company like this so that we can call you and say that to you.
Sure.
Like, help me, what do I do?
Right.
So that's really, really, really good. So is there anything else you want to tell us about hospice?
Well, it's one thing I want to mention,
Okay.
and you mentioned seeing a physician. It's not uncommon that when we transport a client that wants to go, is asking us to take them to see their primary care physician, that we actually accompany that client into the office.
Okay.
And if they want, and typically it's the children calling us saying, okay, so what did the doctor tell my mother?
Yes.
So we sit in on that. and
That's
we
really
make
good.
notes, and then we email them or text or whatever they want to convey
Okay.
that back to the siblings.
That's really good. That's really good because, like I say, that's when you're the person that's sick, even the person that's taking care of the person.
Yeah.
A lot of times, their first call, it's scary, at first, and then once you find out there's so much help out there for you, and that you can put your life in order while you're putting your parent or whoever your loved
Absolutely,
one's life in order, it gets much better. Well, Jerry, I want to thank you so much for answering these questions and helping a lot of people. I know you helped me answering these questions. And I would like to say happy holiday to all of our viewers out there. Dawn couldn't be with us today because she's out of town, but have a happy holiday. And we'll have one more show before the new year. So we'll say Happy New Year's too, okay? Till then, bye-bye.